you might not know this about me, but like I am a sex crazed individual. I mean, wow. Like, is it what I think about all the time? Pretty much.
Power on.
Real-time Sovryn is go.
Oh, hey. Sorry, let me put away my, just a little light reading there. Put away my 5th edition copy of Science and Sanity by Alfred Korzybski. Let's put that over there. Everybody should have that in their library, and I certainly wouldn't fuck anybody that didn't. Well, anyway, that's a hell of a way to open, but it actually speaks to much of what I want to get into today in our real-time Sovryn. And, lately, this isn't true for just lately, but lately, recently, I guess I want to say, recently I have attended a few metal concerts. Now, you may be wondering, what the hell does this have to do with anything? How could this even relate to leftist politics, among other things? Well, just trust me, we're going to get there. Because this isn't about me. Not really. This speaks to a much larger issue in the world. So, I've been going to some metal concerts lately. Of course, I've lost count of how many metal concerts I've gone to, or just concerts in general, not just metal. I've gone to plenty other types of concerts, including in recent years. Gone to go see Janet Jackson. I've even seen like Little River Band. I know. Hey, easy. They're like the Nickelback of their day, and you know how I feel about Nickelback. Yeah, not negative. Fucking badasses. Anyway, but something I kind of noticed, and it really struck me hard recently with a couple of shows that I've seen. Because I was really expecting something different. And I didn't get it. I didn't get the difference that I was hoping for. And it was something that actually colored my entire perception of really of concerts, and in some ways of heavy metal bands overall. And that actually colored my perception of much of what's, considered political banter, particularly in the colonies, or as what I call the United States. So let's break this down a little bit. In particular, the concerts I went to recently, one was Powerwolf, a metal band out of Europe. They were also touring with Unleash the Archers, phenomenal female-fronted band, absolutely phenomenal. Powerwolf is not fronted by a woman, though they certainly put women front and center often enough, which kind of speaks to the point. But anyway, so that was one concert. And then I also saw Korn, of all things. Yes, Korn with a K, not the kind on the cob, even though I've always said I wish they would finally come out with an album called On the Cob. But Korn with the very genius leadership, and I mean this, like I do think this guy is actually like a quite the musical genius, that being Jonathan Davis, and they had Gojira opening up for them and Spirit Box. Anyway, I admittedly did not know Spirit Box, who they were before this, and there's certainly they made for, in my opinion, some very very funny moments. In fact, for one, while we're on the subject here quick, for one, what I thought was the most hilarious thing, speaking of, Spirit Box is also a female-fronted band. And, like the crowd gets done cheering, we're all clapping and everything. The crowd gets done cheering, and she says, "Thank you all. You're all amazing." I mean, just in this very, kind of sweet voice, you know what I mean? And then she goes, "This next song goes out to everybody I hate." And it's just, and it's like, wait a minute, you're talking about how you love everybody, you're loving the energy around you and all this stuff. And then this one goes out to all the people I hate. And total disconnect. I mean, but it actually speaks to a larger theme here. Gojira, first off, like everybody that I saw was musically was amazing. Powerwolf was amazing. Unleash the Archers was amazing. Spirit Box was very good at what they did. Gojira was fucking phenomenal, right? And of course, Korn. I mean, if you're into that style, like they're some of the best, if not the best, at what they do. Just really, really solid stuff. I've been a fan. I was never a huge fan of Korn, but then the movie Queen of the Damned from, what was that, 2002? That was like the last performance, or maybe even first and last performance. I don't exactly know of Leah. And, it's Stuart Townsend, who I thought was amazing back in the day. I don't know exactly whatever happened to him. Anyway, based, of course, on the Anne Rice novel. Well, not of the same name. The novel's actually, or the movie's based off of like a couple novels, The Vampire Lestat and then Queen of the Damned. But anyway, when I saw that and I learned that Jonathan, and I loved the soundtrack for that movie. Okay. And when I found out Jonathan Davis had like, of Korn, had wrote all of the original music for the movie and the score, and and also sung it for in stand-in for Stuart Townsend, playing Lestat in that. I was absolutely blown away. I'm not going to begin to claim that movie is like this great movie. I do think that it's one of those wonderful snapshots of a time, of a style that was the closest thing to becoming the style of the aughts, right? Because the aughts don't actually have any kind of defined style. When something's 90s, when something's 80s, but there really isn't anything that is like specifically, that is specifically the aughts. But the style that came out of, say, The Matrix, that came out of the Underworld movies, even the Resident Evil movies, as well as, movies like Queen of the Damned or whatever, a lot of this leather and everything else, quasi BDSM sexual stuff, was like this vampiric style was close to what would have been, and it's not goth. Like, no, stop. Not goth. It's something different. It's something very, very different. Because also it came with an opulence that goth was not a part of. Okay. So stop. Don't say that to me. Okay. But that was like the closest thing, to that. Anyway, I thought, again, the music in Queen of the Damned I thought was amazing. It's still an incredible soundtrack. And so I became like a fan of Jonathan Davis at that point. Not so much of Korn necessarily, but I recognize, anyway, so the point I'm getting at is I recognize how talented Jonathan Davis is, and how, and where that parlays into Korn. So they were very good. That was a definitely a, I don't normally go to that style of show. I've gone to plenty, Suicide Silence and, a bunch of others, even though that's even way more extreme than Korn. But it's not the kind that I normally go to. Okay. So what am I getting at here? What I'm getting at is, ever since I was a kid, so I'm 43. Ever since I was a kid, I was raised Jewish, converted to Christianity a little later on, or parents converted to Christianity. So I kind of had to convert to Christianity for a while. And especially when you convert to Christianity, like there was this message, in the 90s we had, which I was growing up in, we had what was called the Satanic Panic. Now, while we can largely recognize today that that's utter bullshit, the only thing that's not bullshit is the travesties, the tragedies that were enacted upon people accused by Christians of, being Satanists and whatever else. There's your only tragedies and all that. It's you can't help but walk away. And of course, we had the Tipper Gore trials and everything at the time, which of course Dee Snider and others did a phenomenal job at, like, basically calling bullshit on the entire U.S. government over their concerns around heavy metal music, and really, like, again, slapping the parental advisory on albums was the biggest win, like helping hand that the government could give to the music industry, because it caused CDs to fly off the fucking shelves, because, oh, my parents don't like it, I'll buy it. I mean, that's basically what every young person was thinking, myself included. But there was this overall message within all of this that somehow at metal shows, particularly, though other, subgenres of music would certainly, fall into this at varying points. But there was this idea that somehow evil things were happening at metal shows. And I don't just mean doing drugs. I don't just mean, not that I consider that evil. And I don't just mean, drinking, or things like that. But that there was like rampant, sex happening, lustful, wild sex happening everywhere. Gals are lifting up their shirts and blah, 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 and whatever else is going on. And that people are worshiping Satan at these shows. Like openly, it's happening, and they're worshiping Satan. Now, here's the rub, okay? Granted, I didn't start going to metal shows, until the 90s, okay? And one could argue that the timbre had changed, in metal at the time, right? Because Nirvana became the thing, and acts like Korn and whoever else. Not that Korn is like anti-sexual. I mean, for fuck's sake, they have the song Adidas, right? All Day I Dream About Sex. I mean, that's actually what the fucking song is about. And it was like the fourth song they played that night that I saw them. I even had my Adidas hat on, and Jonathan Davis had his ridiculous looking Adidas tracksuit on as well. Anyway, so, it's not like they're against that, but I get it that in the 90s things kind of shifted, right? To where, the music wasn't so much about the sex, like metal was very much in the 80s, with what gets called hair metal, and other things. Okay. So, okay, I get it that maybe like the sexual stuff isn't front and center. And, for myself, that's my, like the sex charged, erotically energetic, metal is where I am at. Like that, I'm all about it. It's my favorite. I mean, I think I'm even wearing a Kiss shirt right now. Yes, actually I am. So, I get it that when I go to these, when I was going to these shows as a younger person, like that wasn't happening. That kind of, maybe if that even ever truly happened on a larger scale. Sure, you saw it in like live videos maybe or something like that, but if that was actually, happening in any kind, like I said, in any kind of large scale, I don't know, but it certainly wasn't happening in the 90s. Okay. But the thing that I feel like still should have been going on is, the supposed devil worship, the supposed satanic worship. And I don't need to get into a big history about me because I don't really want this to be about me. I want this to actually shine a light on the reality that we live within right now, because I think that there is a lot of confusion around a lot of rhetoric and what's being said online and how things are and blah, 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 and kind of a lot of these higher end abstractions. In fact, ironically, the very chapter I opened up to in Science and Sanity was about higher end abstractions and talking about terms like unpatriotic and unchristian and things like this. It was actually a very synchronous moment for this recording. But for all the metal shows I've gone to, and I mean, you got to believe me when I tell you, I have absolutely lost count. I have gone to so many. Even Mrs. Sovryn and I have gone to so many, just in the, 7 years that she and I have been together. We have gone to so many shows. We have a hard time remembering who we saw where and what. I mean, we have gone to so much. Not once have I been to a metal show. Not once have I been somewhere where like they were openly, like, or even not even just openly, where they're even hinting at worshiping Satan, at promoting conventional concepts of evil or some kind of devil worship or something like that. Not once. And I'm going to admit to you, I actually had some hope. I hate that word, but I had some hope that, you know what, when I go see Powerwolf, that's going to change. Finally, I'm going to go see a fucking band that is going to worship Satan or do devil worship or some kind of other wacky ass pagan shit or something on that stage. And they're going to get everybody in on the game. And you know what? It didn't fucking happen. In fact, quite the opposite. Now, you got to understand Powerwolf, okay? I'm not going to give you a huge recounting of history here. You got to understand something about Powerwolf. So they're a power metal band, but what their main differentiator is, usually power metal is about, like the forces of light destroying the forces of evil in some way, or something along those lines. It's grand battles, Lord of the Rings style shit, or whatever else. Or it's something like Dragon Force, which they certainly have their hand in a lot of that as well. Okay, but Powerwolf was supposed to be like the villainous band. Like they were the band that played on the other side. Okay, they weren't like singing about the forces of light defeating the forces of evil. They were the other way around. And I love them for that. And at the very least, whether they believe that shit or not, at the very least, it's fantastic marketing, because you've set yourself apart and you've clearly defined like your opposition. Like it's so good. And so they were the band where I was really hoping, I'm like, yeah, we're going to go there. We're going to have a fucking black mass. This is going to be nuts. And like I said, technically, musician-wise and music-wise, they're fantastic. They're incredible. These guys they're great performers. Very funny. Like, I mean, like they had a good time on stage and all that and fine. But as far as the show itself, ultimately, it's kind of weak sauce. Right? Like ultimately, no. I didn't really feel like I was in, any kind of like in some demonic ritual or anything. And that's what I fucking wanted. Like I've been going to metal shows forever because yes, look, I want to worship Satan. Will you worship Satan at this show, please? I will, I'm ready to join in. Come on, let's go. And they never do. And in fact, Powerwolf even doubled down on the lack of this. In that, like, there's a point where the lead singer is talking to the crowd and says, like, what religions do we have? We have pagans, we have atheists, we have Christians, we have this. It's like, it all doesn't matter. What matters is the religion of heavy metal or something, And so, like, he had an opportunity, to really, like, lean in on the villainous and the evil and the demonic. I mean, they even have a fucking song called Demons Are a Girl's Best Friend, for fuck's sake. Like they really could have leaned in on it and they didn't. Just like at Korn, like I think the two largest demographics at the Korn show were people in their 40s and 50s and then people in their single digits and teens. Those were the two largest demographics there. Now, I mean, and this is an important point to bring up as well. At Powerwolf, there were a lot of kids at that show, a lot of young people at that show, which is, when I was going to metal shows in the 90s, like that wasn't a thing. Like I often was like the youngest person there, at a metal show. And I was fortunate because I looked a lot older than I was. But, like kids being at these shows, that wasn't a thing, And I get it. These bands just want to make money. And, well, that gets at the point. Part of the point. But I want to keep going. So at Korn, there's no, like, worshiping of the demonic. There's no, none of this stuff. Not even secretly is this shit happening. And maybe some Christian asshats would come out and say, like, oh, no, it's just the music alone. That's enough to bring on the spirits and, cause this or that or whatever. And, this gets at it. Okay. Other than like a mosh pit, which let me tell you, a mosh pit is like, at the end of the day, the most tame thing. And also, oh, you haven't been in the right mosh pit. No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm paying respect and I'm actually like I'm paying you a compliment. Okay. Mosh pits are amazing because, like as physical and as quote unquote brutal as they can be or whatever, if you fall down or if you're like injured in some way, like people will instantly take care of you. And this is the funniest thing is, as somebody who's gone to, and then I'm going to get back into my point, as somebody who's gone to so many concerts, 9.5 times out of 10, like people at metal shows are the nicest fucking people I've ever met in my life. In fact, it's almost annoying how nice they are. I go to a pop concert and I'm fucking surrounded by Karens, and they're all just ruthless and mean. And I mean, not necessarily mean to me, but to others, and disrespectful. Oh, incredibly disrespectful. Some stories I could tell. But at metal shows, people are fucking awesome. I mean, like, if you want to go to a place with the largest per capita amount of people that follow the rule of don't be a dick, go to a fucking metal show. But then what do you get told, by Christians and politicians, since the 80s and 90s and probably even before that, and I'm sure it's still very much a thing now. In fact, I know it is. I've heard it. You're told that, like, oh, the devil is there. Oh, this is just where everybody's evil. This is, all kinds of atrocious acts and unspeakable acts are happening there. I've never once seen an unspeakable act happening at a metal concert. And that's the problem. I bought into, me growing up, I bought into this idea that the Christians were selling, that you go to a metal show, you're worshiping Satan. You go to a metal show, there's crazy sex going on. There's drugs being done. There's all this stuff. And yeah, sure, there's some, drugs being done or whatever. But most of the drugs calm people down. They're fucking harmless, I mean, that's not happening at metal shows. I know there's other shows where some of this crazy shit's going on. EDM shows, whatever else, I don't know. Okay, I'm not knocking anybody for those. I'm just saying, okay, maybe it's happening, but it sure as fuck isn't happening at metal shows. Okay, but I was told that there would be Satan worshiping and sex, and there is neither, no matter how many I've gone to, and I'm fucking disappointed about it. Christians, I wanted you to be right, and you lied to me. Don't tell me I'm not going to the right shows. Don't tell me I got to actually go to this city or that city. I've been all around the world seeing this shit, and it never happens. And I want it to. Like, I am ready to put my hands up. Praise Satan. And it never happens. I am prepared, as is my wife, to have sex in the crowd. And oh, no, don't you even try. You'll get locked up that night. But Satan controls the authorities. Satan controls the politicians and the cops and whatever. Apparently not, because they don't like people having sex out in public. I am game to remove all of my clothing. My wife, right on. I'm just going to put it that way. Okay. And we've talked about this. And this is going to get into a larger point. This is where we also get into some leftist bullshit. But first we got to start with the rightist / conservative bullshit. Even though I think we're going to discover they're all conservatives. I cannot describe to you, like how insanely disappointed I am, especially in the Powerwolf show, that, like, I mean, they didn't even, okay, yeah, they might have, like, kind of dressed the part, like they have outfits on to make them look like quasi-priests or something, but, like, they could have done so much more. And they were like the one band that could get away with it because they could be tongue-in-cheek about it. Even if deep down they were serious. They could be tongue-in-cheek about it, and they didn't do it. Now, I said earlier, yeah, these bands just want to make a buck. They just need to make some money. This is a 9-to-5 job for them, just like our 9-to-5 jobs are to, quote-unquote, us, the little people. We're not little people, but you get my point. Okay, Christians, if you want, and I know I have Christians that listen to me and that watch me, listen to me like you've never listened to me before. Okay? These people are just going for shock value, and they're just going to make some money. Now, unless you're going to tell me some New Testament horseshit about how, the love of money is the root of all evil and stuff like this, okay? That is a completely separate conversation to have, all right? But you like to have more than less money in your bank account as much as anybody else. They're just like you, and they're just doing shit for shock. There's no satanic ritual. There's no demonic ritual. There's nothing of the sort. As somebody who is actually well versed in these rituals, they never fucking happen. And it pisses me off. I mean, for fuck's sake, like, people don't even throw up they don't throw up the horns anymore. Like, the bands don't. They don't do it like this. Nobody even does that anymore. And, granted, even then, of course, depending upon who you believe, with the origin of that. If you believe Ronnie James Dio, his claim for it wasn't that it was about, it wasn't devil horns. It's the malacca or whatever. It's a symbol to ward off the evil eye, which the evil eye is a symbol of evil within almost every religion around the world. So his concept was that you're actually warding off evil, not that you're engaging in it. Gene Simmons, rather, also claims to have invented it, but it was like a move that he played on the bass. And I mean, look, like me, Gene Simmons is a Jew, and he's like actually supportive of Israel and shit. So he's, kind of, well, maybe then people are going to make some kind of demonic claim, and because he's the demon. But most people believe that Ronnie James Dio did it anyway. I'm not throwing any shade at Gene Simmons for this whatsoever. Okay, but the point being, even if, and you could say, yeah, but most people think that it's the devil horns or whatever. Well, let me disabuse you of that as well. Almost nobody does that anymore. Now, you know what people do at metal shows? Everybody just puts up the one finger now. Maybe they put up two hands, but they just put up like the one finger, like they're pointing up to God. That's annoying as fuck. It's like, come on, man. You like, this is metal. You know what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to throw up the horns. But no, the musicians aren't even into it. And most of the people in the crowd, they have no fucking clue. Well, that's how the devil works. No. Just, again, this is the stuff that pisses me off. Like so many of these tropes and things that you're told that it means this, like, these aren't even part of the program anymore. There is not wild sex happening at these things. In fact, I don't even think there's a whole ton. There's plenty of drinking for sure, but then Christians often don't seem to mind that unless it's like Seventh-day Adventists or Mormons or something, which that's a whole separate conversation as well. But like, honestly, at a lot of these shows, I feel like I'm, like Ellen and I are the only ones actually doing any kind of drugs. We're doing mushrooms or whatever. I mean, yeah, there's weed, but whatever. Weed's like drinking milk. I mean, it's like heating meat. It's just something that like fucking everybody does, and or that most people do, because obviously we don't eat meat. But you get my point. It like, that's so banal, and the magic cabbage, the jazz cabbage, is not sending anybody to hell. I mean, in fact, hate to break it to you, Christians, but there is excellent evidence to suggest that in holy spaces, synagogues, or particularly around stand-ins for temples, for ancient, or for Hebrews, for the Jews, that they actually they were using cannabis of a type, in those areas. So that's par for your course, folks. Now, that's a whole other massive subject to get into that I could, because also I don't consume marijuana. I have no problem with anybody, or I don't smoke. I don't have a problem with anybody doing it. I do consume CBD every day, but anyway. So, but that's my point. Is like I feel like we're the only ones sneaking in, shit and taking it, and it makes for a much better time. But Well, it depends on what you're taking, and it depends on the music as well. But certainly, it's made things interesting and different. I mean, it's not like we're going to Grateful Dead shows and we're not doing things at that level for sure because we got to drive home at night. But you get my point. My point is, there's not a bunch of people doing it at this stuff. Like, and I don't think there ever was. Okay, because again, I've been going to these things for so long. Yeah, some people might be doing it, and I know of people who are doing it, say in the 80s. I have family members who were openly like, doing acid or whatever at a show and blah, blah, blah. And they always came back home just fine. you know, like, and also those very people absolutely were not walking down some kind of demonic path or whatever. I mean, they just weren't. I know. And they're some of just the nicest people you'd ever meet. And again, I'm just reiterating my point there. Okay, but let's shift this up a little bit. But I just wanted to make that abundantly clear to you. Anything you think is happening that's going on at these concerts, nah. And you can say, well, maybe I still haven't gone to the right ones, and you could be right. Maybe I haven't gone to a Venom show or what's there? Was it Mayhem? There's the band. I'm pretty sure it's Mayhem. Where like they are all about like really worshiping Satan or something like that. But then those things, those shows are so rare, and and I don't think that. Oh man, I could talk forever on this, and there's another point I want to get to. So, but for one, I know that Venom shows aren't like that. Okay, for two, I mean, maybe Mayhem did that, but did something akin to that, but then they also kind of wiped themselves out. So, evolution takes care of itself. uh, anyway, that I've been sold a false bill of goods my whole life on this stuff, and so I think some people would say to me, "Well, Stallion, Brian, why don't you be the change you want to see in the world?" I have no problem with being that. I'll be that change. Okay. However, I can't change much while I'm in prison, and this speaks to a much bigger issue. And because here's the thing, okay? Like, I feel like a metal concert is a phenomenal place to have sex. It's a great place to get a blowjob. It's a great place, to give oral sex. It's a great place, you take whatever the dynamic is, whatever the permutations are, like, it's a great place for that. Okay? Really. Like, I mean, I would love to be listening to, Powerwolf or even like Dragon Force or something like that, and just like fucking to the beat. I am there, man. And, I would hope that the band, which, I mean, okay, I guess maybe Dragon Force doesn't really sing about sex, but, plenty of the bands that I go and see do regularly sing about sex. Whether it's Whitesnake, Motley Crue, or something. I would hope that like David Coverdale would be on the stage and be like, "Fuck yeah," giving the thumbs up to everything that's going on. I mean, it's what you're fucking singing about. But no, you'll get kicked out instantly for doing that. I mean, you won't just get kicked out; you'll get locked up. Even on something as simple, because you could say, what's all the metal stuff. Well, look, just in general, and for those that don't know this about me, I actually wanted to open up, kind of talking about this because I know that there are new viewers, new listeners coming on board with, the launch of the YouTube channel, which this is on right now. You might not know this about me, but like I am a sex crazed individual. I mean, wow. Like, is it what I think about all the time? Pretty much. And I am incredibly sex positive. Um, I know it like might have sounded like I'm really harsh on leftists or anything earlier, and it might sound like I'm about to be as well. Okay, but let me be clear here. I am all about people doing whatever the hell they want to do with their bodies. Okay, I am all about doing things as long as it's consensual and all that jazz, like rock and roll. Um, You want to get some kind of operation that does this to you, by all means, like, do it. Like, I don't care. Okay. I really, really don't. So I want to be clear on that. But to get to my second point, I mean, this was something, like Ellen and I, we went on a hike recently, and we got to the top of the mountain. It's absolutely stunning, as every mountain in New Hampshire is. And at the top of the mountain, I'm like, oh, God, I would just really love a blowjob up here. Like, this is just so amazing. The experience, everything, being out in nature, seeing all of this, like, you want to engage in the most celebratory and connective act that you can do with another individual, as well as with nature itself, with existence, with the universe itself, and that is having sex. I wanted to do that so badly. And, what do you have to worry about? Yeah, like, if somebody, comes up the mountain as well, and they see you, they can call the cops, or they can call the authorities, or whatever else. And you can't just do that. And I and she and I both, we were complaining about it. It's like, what the fuck? Now, I mean, to be clear, I still got my blowjob, okay, but really, but I would have loved to have done so much more, and I understood the concern, of being caught, of the ramifications of that, and also, so many other things. But we were both talking about it, and we're just like, why can't people just do this? It's just love. Like, why can't we express our love in such a, powerfully physical way in the open air? And you can't. You can't do it at a metal show, even though supposedly that's where shit's always going on. And you can't do it without, some degree of fear in the background, which really interferes, in my opinion, with, the moment. Even in a place that's more remote, like the top of a mountain on a cold day. You just can't. And it really drives something home for me, because there is this narrative from conservatives that somehow leftists are like destroying the moral fabric of America, and that leftists are, allowing for all kinds of, wild sexual and depending, I'm sure Christians would toss in the term satanic, just like they did with metal concerts, and all this other stuff. And it's like, I don't see it. As far as I know, the only place you can, regularly, legally be nude in the United States is in Vermont, outside of private whatever setups that, that people might have. But this narrative that somehow, everybody's turning into sex crazed this or that, it's not happening. And I wish it was, but it's not. That, oh yeah, and perverts, this is allowing perverts to go into bathrooms, and it's allowing, all this crap. I mean, I just don't see, because let me guarantee you, climbing those mountains, it's an 8 to 9 out of 10 shot that the people are going to see us are liberals, and they're not going to be okay with what Mrs. Sovryn and I are doing in public. And a lot of these shows, that I'm seeing, a lot of times they're in Massachusetts. And for most people, that's basically California of the East. It's like liberal capital of the world for most people in their minds. And I guarantee you, they would not be okay with us doing these things in a metal concert. Guaranteed. Doesn't matter how fucking sexy my wife is, and like, by all means, like, I wouldn't blame people for looking. But it's not, they're not going to be okay with it. And so where is this, like, I want the moral fiber of America to be destroyed. Like, I want it to be degraded, but it's not happening. Okay. So for those of you watching this, who've gotten this far, who are listening, let me assure you, all these things that you are afraid of, they are not occurring. And this is coming from somebody who absolutely, yes, like, I want these things to occur. but they're not. I do not have like sexual freedom. I do not have, and this is totally consensual between, hell, it's even between a man and a woman, a married man and a woman at that. So what the fuck are you people talking about? And this is the thing, like I said, leftists would have the same exact problem with all of this. Leftists today are not the hippies of yesteryear who maybe might have been okay with it. They're just not. So to me, like if there's some kind of belief that somehow the left is like changing things in how, people can express themselves, either by their sex or sexuality, and when I say, or should I say their gender or sexuality and things like this, if there's this, I don't see it. I don't believe it. All I see is that like no one seems to actually have the freedom to do whatever the hell they want. But the claim is that apparently that's exactly what's happening, is that everybody is being allowed to do whatever they want, and the world is turning into, some kind of sex crazed, blah, blah, blah. And, everybody's gender is confused and all this stuff. And I don't think it's San Francisco. I don't think it's just San Francisco either. In fact, I've heard from plenty of people. Maybe I need to go there myself, but I've heard from plenty of people in San Francisco, and like it is not the gay paradise that Christians are afraid of. I'm not afraid of it, but it's just not. I mean, if anything shifted, sure, it seems like we can, I can like freely talk about sex on here, and there isn't, the Gestapo's not coming at my door. Okay. I can, and other people can make a lot more, sexual commentary. And fortunately, certainly a big change is that homosexuality has been, I feel very mainstream accepted. Okay. But it seems to have stopped there. And in my opinion, and this is based upon my experiences, real world experiences, is that really the left and the right, they're both conservatives. Because neither of them are actually challenging like the broader paradigms. Like there's legislation that is going out. Apparently there's legislation that will allow for an insurance company to pay for a sex change or something like that. But then I don't think there's any legislation whatsoever being passed about, can I walk around naked? Can I have sex wherever I want? Can I do this or that? And it's like, well, then what are we really talking about here? Because again, and this is within even the framework of its opposition, right? Because this is within the framework of the right, who think that because people get, because people transition, they have gender transitions, that somehow this leads to people whacking off in bathrooms. When again, if this was all about getting your rocks off, there's no legislation whatsoever about you coming. Man or woman or Z or whatever. And I say whatever with respect. There's no legislation about that. And you think that that's going to somehow come down the line? No. It blows my mind. And maybe, you know what, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, get in your comments on Spotify or on YouTube. Okay? They both allow for comments. And you can tell me where, man, I'm just so dead wrong. You don't understand what's happening in this city. You don't understand what's happening in this city, and blah, blah, blah. Prove me wrong. But as far as I can tell, there is no Satanist cabal. There is no, like you can't even go anywhere to actually worship Satan. But I'm told that it's fucking everywhere. There is no there's no free love movement for sure. Like that's if that ever existed, that's long gone. I mean, yes, I know that there are anarchist activists and whatever who are all about, like radically, naturism, whatever, I mean, and there's an entire naturism movement, and I fully support it. I think that's great. Okay. That's about nudism and whatever else. But I mean, it just in general, it's just not there. Not on the large scale. So it's happening. I get it. Okay. But it's not happening on this somehow large world changing, world conquering scale that supposedly the left is engaging in and the right is concerned about. Like it's fucking not there. And if it is anywhere, you know where it probably is? It's probably in Washington, D.C. And it's probably with as many Republicans as it is Democrats. But that doesn't affect everyone else. If only, if only the oligarchy or whatever, and their puppets, are the ones doing this shit, how does that affect us? If the law isn't changing to where, and look, I don't ask for permission. Okay. Like I told you, when I was on top of the fucking mountain, I did it anyway. We did it anyway. But man, like, I'm just saying, like there's this nightmare scenario that the right believes the left is bringing in. I mean, it just doesn't fucking exist. It's all like, oh, maybe, oh, if we do this, oh, it's a gateway, it leads to that eventually and all that. And it's just a bunch of ifs and maybes. And I thought conservatives didn't deal in ifs and maybes. I thought you were the ones that are all about, we think, we don't feel. Well, think, don't feel. Fear is a feeling, not a thought. Oh well. So, what's the solution to all this? I'm not even going to say that I have one. But I am here to say that certainly no one is, again, all these nightmare scenarios and supposed, cults and demonic actions and all this stuff that, that supposedly is, like, it's nowhere. It's fucking nowhere. Or if it is somewhere, it's so like quiet and unknown. And I have yet to get an invitation and I'm fucking pissed about it. That it's meaningless to you ultimately, just as it's meaningless to me. People piss me off. You fucking liars. Like I said, I was promised that there was Satan worship. I was promised that there was wild sex happening, or at the very least allowed. And none of that is so. None of that. I was promised drug addictions, goddammit. And I've been doing these things for months and months and months, and I'm literally not addicted at all. And you're saying, oh yeah, but you've been doing it for months and months. No, that's my choice. But if I don't have time, I don't care. And it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't create any kind of difference. Oh, well, that's because it's not the right drugs. Oh, okay. Well, then maybe you ought to get particular about that. And start decriminalizing things like plant medicine. Not that I'm asking for permission. I do it anyway. Fuck you. So, the unfortunate reality is there is no grand leftist conspiracy destroying the moral fabric of America. If it was, I'd join it. There is no, demonic cults. There is no Satan worship going on at any of these events. If there was, I'd be doing it. And I'd be open about it. And it's a shame. Because if there's anything we've learned in 2024, though really most of us learned this a long time ago, but if there's anything we've really learned in 2024, especially in this election year, it's as, well, to quote Megadeth, the system has failed. And with that, I say to all of you, well, I'll see all of you on the other side. Woo.